stakes of what's happening, which means it's all breaking through. The work that you guys are doing is breaking through on a daily basis. So thank you. And thank you to Governor Newsom for his strong, steady-handed leadership in fighting back against Trump's authoritarian regime. I mean, we've all been waiting for somebody to step up and hold the line, and now we get to see it happen. We all get to be a part of it. So thank you. That is what Proposition 50 is about, and that is why we are voting yes this November. We need to take concrete action. That is what Governor Newsom is doing, but he's not alone. We have tens of thousands of Californians behind him, making sure that you're shooting out texts, calls, everything on a daily basis. A lot of people are saying, yes, we can do this. So stick around, make sure you're ready. We have a special guest coming in at the end. I want to introduce Governor Gavin Newsom himself. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for all that you've done to support this cause, and most importantly to all of you that are joining us today, not only from California, but all across the United States. It's an extraordinary thing. We're doing a little tally yesterday. Over 1.1 million people in the last 7 weeks have contributed to this effort. So many of you that are here have contributed to this effort, and I cannot thank you enough for not only your time, but your resources and your resourceful mindset, recognizing, as Adam said, that we've got to meet this moment and that we've got to disabuse ourselves so that we can continue to do things like we've done them in the past. And I'll just remind everybody very briefly before I introduce our special guest, this was not the fight we wanted to fight. This was not our battle. This is in reaction to something unprecedented that happened. The President of the United States made a phone call to a sitting governor and said he was, quote unquote, entitled. Think about those words, entitled to 5 seats in an unprecedented effort to rig the 2026 election before a single vote was cast. So reminiscent, of course, to what happened in Georgia, dialing up for 11, 12,000 votes. He hasn't stopped there. Not only was Greg Abbott indulgent, not only did their legislature move forward to rig the system with 5 additional seats, but you've seen the same thing take shape in Missouri and just quite literally hours or so ago in North Carolina. Anticipate this as a preview of things to come in Indiana, as they've sent the vice president out there on multiple occasions. The president continues to invite leaders from their legislature into the Oval Office, doing everything to coerce, not my words, those are in essence the words that were uttered by the governor of Indiana, who said, if we don't move, he may not provide resources, may not give us support. That's the Indiana governor, his own words, in terms of the prevailing winds, the threat, dare I say, of not doing his bidding. Of course, that obedience will likely extend to Florida as well. So this is a profound moment. The president just yesterday, right there in the White House, with the destruction quite literally behind him, talked to members of Congress and openly said what we already knew. He's going to lose the midterms. He recognizes that most presidents, incumbents, are likely to lose those midterms. He recognizes that. Of course, he recognizes the obvious. He's underwater in every single critical issue. American people have expressed themselves very clearly in terms of discontent with this administration and its policies. So he knows he's going to lose, and that's exactly why he's trying to rig the election. That's exactly why we need to meet this moment, in the words of Adam. And so we're doing that, not with an op-ed. We're not holding hands. We're not having a candlelight vigil. We're not doing a white paper. We're not showing up at a conference. And, oftentimes I'll say this, Democrats tend to do that and talk about our moral superiority and, and what we could or should be. We're actually doing something more meaningful. We're fighting fire with fire. We're not fighting with one hand tied behind our back. And we move forward in a way that I don't think the president or members of Congress expected. And that is we move forward by putting the maps, not only through the California legislature with 2/3 of their support, but now in front of the voters in the most transparent and democratic way possible. It will be the first maps ever to be in front of the voters in the United States of America. It's temporary, it's transparent, and it's democratic. These are not maps that were, dare I say, in the pejoratives, drafted in Mar-a-Lago. These will be drafted, in essence, by the people themselves on November 4th, just 13 days from today. The election started a few weeks ago. It ends on November 4th. Early voting is already taking place. We're seeing some pretty extraordinary numbers of early votes that have already been cast, people sending back in their mail-in ballots. But I'll just end on this by reminding you how precious this moment is and why we can't run the 90-yard dash and why we're all here together. Because we have work to do in the next few weeks. It's a special election after all. It's all going to be about turnout. And I'll just remind you of who turned out when we kicked off this campaign, because it really reinforced the chilling nature of the stakes. We could talk about January 6th and President of the United States trying to light democracy on fire, trying to wreck this country. But we're seeing it happen in real time, on an hourly, not even daily basis, it seems, with new news that comes out the White House and the president's mouth on Truth Social. But for me, the chill was being there at the Democracy Center with 2 U.S. senators, a dozen members of Congress, hundreds of community leaders, many of you perhaps that are joining today that were there, at the sacred site down in Little Tokyo in Los Angeles, where we were interning the Japanese, where they were being bussed. And Donald Trump sent out someone who's become a familiar face, this guy Bovino from Border Patrol, with masks on. Masked men showed up right in front of the rally before we kicked off to intimidate and chill free expression, to intimidate people from walking into our event. A poor soul, guy selling strawberries, was collateral damage, who happened to be in the area. He was just released. He disappeared. He was just released. I said it a few months ago when 4,000 National Guard were federalized, 700 active duty Marines were sent to the second largest city in the United States, not overseas, that this was a preview of things to come. And you're going to likely see members of our military in and around polling booths and voting places all across this country. Well, I would say the same about ICE and Border Patrol. And I say that soberly, with the expectation we'll be seeing those images here in San Francisco in a matter of days, like we're seeing in Chicago and Portland and all across this country. And so, again, forgive the long-windedness. I just want to reinforce the sobriety of which we convene and the nature of this moment. And just end on this. You have the power. You have the power with Prop 50. You have the power to restore checks and balances. You have the power to stand up to people, stand up for people that have been bullied and threatened by this administration. You have the power to save our democracy. And so I'm grateful to all of you for exercising your voice, for recognizing you can shape the future. The future is not something to experience, it's something to manifest. It's our decisions, not conditions. And it's my honor now to introduce someone who understands that better than anybody, that understands, yes, I'll say it, change that starts bottom up, self-organizing communities, people coming together across their differences, recognizing they have voice, they have choice, and someone that needs no introduction, but someone that has introduced us the term hope and optimism, that's not just a dreamer, but a doer, someone that gets it and gets things done. It's my honor to introduce President Barack Obama.
Thanks, Gavin. And thank you, everybody who is not just on this call, but more importantly, doing the work. I am going to be very brief. As Gavin mentioned, a lot of us do not believe that politicians should choose their voters. They believe the voters should choose who's going to represent them. That's the meaning of democracy. That's the foundation of our self-governance. The problem that we are seeing right now is that our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment. They want to change around the maps, not the way it's always been done every 10 years after a census. they want to do it before any election in which they're worried they might lose. They want to tinker around with it to see if they can give themselves an advantage. And it's brazen. They're not pretending that there's some other rationale to it. They're simply doing it because they think they can. And in those circumstances, I could not be more appreciative of the work that Governor Newsom and the people of California are doing and saying, stop. This is not how American democracy is supposed to operate. And that's what Prop 50 is about. And it has critical implications, not just for California, but for the entire country. The essence of Prop 50 is to say that if you are going to play that game, then we are going to try to counteract that abuse of the system. And as a consequence of California's actions, we have a chance, at least, to create a level playing field in the upcoming midterm elections. As important is the mechanism that Gavin put into place, which says that when we are finished with this monkey business that we're seeing in Texas and Carolina and Missouri and potentially Indiana, when we're not seeing that kind of behavior out of not just the president, but his enablers, then California will revert back to an independent commission that is doing things the way it's supposed to be done, which is have an objective system that allows voters to make their decisions each and every election in a way that is fair and nonpartisan. So I think that it is important for all of you to understand that what's at stake here is not simply, how many delegates from, Democratic Party or Republican Party are elected in 2026. There's a broader principle at stake that has to do with whether or not our democracy can be manipulated by those who are already in power to entrench themselves further, or whether we're going to have a system that allows the people to decide who's going to represent them. And we're going to continue this extraordinary experiment that is about to be 250 years old. So, as Gavin said, the only way this works, though, is if we have folks on the ground who are doing the work. We can have terrific leadership. We can have wonderful elected officials who have good ideas and want to move things forward, but none of that will make a difference unless we are able to reach millions of people. And the best way to reach them is through the work that you're doing. So I am so appreciative of the time that you're putting in, the effort that you're putting in, the hard work that you're putting in to make sure that Prop 50 passes. And when it passes, I am confident that that's going to send a message of hope across the country. Gavin mentioned the tendency not just of Democrats, but I think right-thinking people generally, to maybe lose heart sometimes, and to start feeling as if there's so much craziness going on a day-to-day basis that you don't know what to do about it. When a few people stand up for what's right, that emboldens others. The work you're doing is going to make others feel like, hey, we can do something too. We can have an impact. We can push back against things that aren't right and aren't fair. And so part of what you're doing right now is not just helping to get Prop 50 passed. You're also helping to embolden and encourage uh, people across the country who maybe have been a little discouraged, but know that democracy is worth fighting for. And so, thank you for that. I look forward to seeing a good outcome coming out of California. Uh, and I hope that all of you are having uh, an experience that will carry over beyond just getting this measure passed. A lot of you, I'm sure, are already doing amazing things in your own communities. You're already having an impact on a whole range of issues. Uh, this is the kind of victory that when we win, I think can help us build momentum and start turning not just California, but the entire country in a better direction. So good job, people. And good job, Governor Newsom, for the outstanding work that you've done and the leadership you've shown in making all this happen.
I appreciate it, Mr. President. I know we all do, and we appreciate seeing you up on our screens every hour of every day as our closing messenger on this campaign. But I think the message you just sent, this notion that we're the antidote to our own fear, our anxiety, our own cynicism. The fact that people are showing up, having given into that, should distill us with a sense of well-being. But as long as we finish the job, and so to everybody here, I hope you can stick around just a few extra minutes and look at the next steps you all can take to make this thing happen and close this out. And I'll just end as well, Mr. President. You talked about that 250th anniversary. That's what this is about. The best of Roman Republic, Greek democracy, popular sovereignty, this notion of a system of checks and balances, the rule of law, not the rule of dawn. And so I hope it's dawning on everybody how precious this moment is, and how, again, in the spirit of Adam, how we can all meet this moment on November 4th. Mr. President, thank you for being here, and everybody, thank you for tuning in today.